It's the first full week of the new year, and what better way to kick it off with a fresh new Monster Monday? In a bit of a twist, I'm adapting a character/creature I first made for Full Build Friday. So gather round and check out this monstrous maiden, the queen of the Rek'Sai, Rek'Sai the Void Burrower. As I just mentioned, I actually built Rek'Sai for Full Build Friday. But we had a request for her as a monster, and I'm trying to deliver on that. While this isn't the first league critter I've made for Monster Monday, it is the first champion that I've tried adapting into a creature. It was an interesting experience, and I'd be open to doing it again in the future. For the most part, it was a matter of adapting the abilities of the character into Pathfinder 2nd Edition, which was a little rough since Rek'Sai here has abilities while burrowed and unburrowed. Getting into the more concrete concerns, champions can cover a range of levels, and with some discussion over on the Discord, we settled on lucky level 13 for this looming lady. She's obviously a unique creature, and while League itself doesn't quite portray it, Rek'Sai is massive and uses that gargantuan size. I decided to make Voidborn its own unique trait, along with the Rek'Sai trait, because maybe I'll make some of her little minions, like the ones that we see in Legends of Runeterra. Rounding out this discussion is the use of the Aberration trait, which is pretty standard, and something that I imagine would be seen across all Void creatures. As towering as this tunneling terror is, it should come as no surprise that she uses an extreme strength, allowing her to tear apart prey with ease. However, with all her diving and dipping around, all that spinning she does, a high dexterity feels right for this creature, as does a high constitution, based on her nature as a bit of a bruiser. Unfortunately, her mind is a little lacking, with only a moderate wisdom to aid her hunting, while her charisma is low, but refrains from going into the negatives based on the command and control that she has over her little ones, something that is noted to be unusual for Rek'Sai queens such as herself. She does have a bestial intelligence to round out her ability scores here before we take a look at her perception. Rek'Sai is a hunter who tracks prey across the deserts and uses a high perception to aid in that. But despite that, she doesn't have any eyes. While she has vision in-game, I think it's more a function of the game itself rather than an actual representation of her capabilities. Instead, Rek'Sai, at least my build of her, has precise tremor sense to a range of 120 feet, which means flying PCs are a good counter to her. But if the heroes want to fly, our frenzied foe can simply dive into the depths of the desert to dodge danger. Make sure you remind them, two can play at that game. Getting into her skills, none are super important in her actual design, so even with an extreme strength, she uses only a high athletics as her top skill. Her acrobatics is moderate, based on her high dexterity, and then her stealth and survival are different flavors of low, the former due to her size, and the latter due to her wisdom. The defenses of this desert dweller are shockingly simple, starting off with only a moderate armor class. Again, Rek'Sai is the size of a house. She's a little hard to miss. Her only immunity is to visual effects, which means that she'll use hit points between high and moderate. She is built as a bit of a brute, so I didn't want her defenses to be too crazy after how much offense she has packed into her kit. With that high dex and con, Rek'Sai also uses a high fortitude and reflex save, making her an absolute physical menace. This pair of high bonuses leaves her with a terrible will save, which means that she does have a few vulnerabilities for the heroes to press on. And believe you me, they definitely did during the Monster Mash I ran over New Year's. Though, on the other hand, I gave as good as I got, I can promise you that. Speaking of which, that brings us to Rek'Sai's attacks. There's 3 of them here, and we'll start with her jaws, which have a moderate attack bonus. They have reach befitting her size and the fatal D12 trait, but based on some of the other designs in this build, they use high damage. This is brutal, but I tested her with extreme damage on this fight, and that was straight up horrifying. I think I almost dealt 100 damage in a single hit. The fatal trait gets her back up there, and feels similar to the bonus damage on Furious Bite when she's at maximum fury, but lowers her average damage a bit. The remaining two strikes of Rek'Sai, her claws and tail, use a high attack bonus. Her claws have the agile trait, whereas her tail has the sweep trait, based on the way that she swings her tail about during Queen's Wrath. Agile is decidedly more valuable, meaning that her claws deal only low damage, whereas her tail has moderate damage, having just a bit more punch behind it than those
big, meaty claws
of hers. Rek'Sai has more abilities than most champions, depending on whether she's burrowed or unburrowed. Notably, while burrowed, Rek'Sai gains movement speed, which is why her burrow speed is slightly higher than her land speed. On the topic of burrowing, let's start by looking at some of the related abilities. The easiest to discuss here is Rock Tunneler, which you've likely seen on the likes of cave worms, and it just lets them burrow through rock and hard surfaces at a slightly lower speed. And it just does the same for Rek'Sai here. An ability that shall hopefully be more exciting is Prey Seeker, a 2-action area effect that has a pretty standard design. It's a little juicy because it has an explosion at the end of a range, and deals limited use area damage at a high reflex DC. One other point of order in regards to it, this deals untyped damage, inspired by the likes of Disintegrate, and the alien nature of the Void, which seems to break down matter. This might be most obviously seen with the likes of Vel'Koz, whose ultimate is the Lifeform Disintegration Ray. I figured that Rek'Sai might have something a tiny bit similar. In League, while Rek'Sai is burrowing, she consumes Fury to heal herself, but just giving her fast healing or something like that while burrowing felt like a touch too much. Vigor of the Rek'Sai is inspired by that concept, while its design is based on the Imp's Fiendish Healing, a single action to heal a certain amount. Now, rather than rolling dice for this effect, I had it simply heal a set amount equal to the average low damage for a strike of her level. This could potentially lead to Rek'Sai simply lurking beneath the sands to lick her wounds, but the rule for using this creature is the same as always. Don't be a jerk while you're DMing. Remember, you can always play smart without being a dick, and Rek'Sai in particular is a creature prone to Fury and Frenzy. Based on the knockup of Rek'Sai's Unburrow, she has Erupting Breach. This is an ability I've built into several other monsters before, check out the Diablos for an example, but running it here it definitely felt like a bit much, which I think is due to our legendary lass's largeness. A gargantuan creature that can do this appears to have just a bit too much going on, so I added a small penalty on straw strikes when it does this, which reduces its attack bonus to low, and makes it a lot less likely to get off a crit and make use of that fatal trait here. The launching creature skyward effect is a little based on the fling feature of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and it's honestly a pretty simple effect otherwise. Once Rek'Sai does this and is unleashed above the sands, she can lash out at foes nearby with Queen's Wrath. This has a lot of basis in Whirlwind Strike. She takes on her multiple attack penalty normally, but does at least get the sweep trait on all of these strikes, which comes, at least inspiration-wise, from Swipe. You might think this is a worse effect than her Erupting Breach, but it covers an even wider area, and the Erupting Breach requires a bit of setup, meaning that this is quicker to perform. However, if Rek'Sai isn't in the midst of a target-rich environment, maybe there's some fool making a final stand, she can use her Furious Bite, which honestly just draws from Vicious Swing. It's a real simple action inspired by her ability of the same name, and punches just a tiny bit of the regular weight class of Vicious Wing being used by a level 13 creature. Rounding out the options inspired by Rek'Sai's own abilities, she has Void Rush to represent her ultimate of the same name. This allows her to teleport to a target that she has damaged, appearing with such suddenness that she is able to gain a bonus on this strike, either increasing her claw or tail to an extreme attack bonus, or her jaws to a high attack bonus. This is mostly some terrifying action efficiency, but the actual design isn't too crazy, which is why it only uses a 1d4 cooldown, despite being her ultimate. While that covers everything created based on Rek'Sai's design in League, I wanted to include one other feature: Chilling Trill. This is based on the distinctive cry of the Rek'Sai, as well as Rek'Sai's position as their queen and commander. Mechanically, it allows me to create an effect with a high DC save that targets a will save. I've talked before about how I like giving a range of saves for creatures to provide them with a different feel to their various abilities. Aside from inflicting frighten on enemies, Rek'Sai can also use his action to call her Rek'Sai to the hunt, including hyping herself up with the Quicken condition. This makes it a fairly powerful action, especially when it takes only a single one to activate, so affected creatures do then become immune for 1 minute, which should, usually, be the entire combat. And as such, that completes the construction of this creeping critter. Dwelling in the depths of the desert, this deadly dame is a danger to all denizens that dare to disturb her domain, diving from the depths to deliver deaths most dire. For now, Rek'Sai is a solitary creature, but I might just have to build some of her Rek'Sai minions. The only problem there is I feel that they would be a much lower level than her. I may just have to make a troop of them that she can work alongside. You might also be able to adapt some variant of Caveworm as members of her more powerful brood, but the Monster Mash assured me that she can 100% be run on her own. Let me know what you think of this monster and what other sorts of monsters you'd like to see in a comment. If you want to see the other monsters I've made already, or the D&D version of this monster, check out the Monster Monday blog, which is linked in the description below, along with the Discord and Twitter. Thanks for watching, and have a monstrous Monday.